Here's an explanation of our new interactive word shifts. These views into how our measure goes up and down, our measure of happiness goes up and down, are a little complex, but they are in some ways the simplest thing we can do to explore the change in word texture that gives rise to these changes. So absolutely crucial to do this. Why is Mother's Day a happier day according to our measure? Well, so we go to the point we're interested in, click on it. Again, we'll have in general these, for the time series, we'll have these links to major events. Mother's Day, of course, being an annual one, varies as to where it is in the world, but in the US, so here we have Sunday, May 11, 2014. So there are 4 ways that words can change in their frequency of usage. So that's what's happening. People are using some words more, some words less, and that is changing why this day in particular is happier than the last 7 days. That's the comparison we're making to the previous 7 days. Right? So there are words here in yellow, these are with the yellow bars, these are clear yellow. These are words that are being used more and that are relatively positive. So unsurprisingly, there's happy and mothers and mum and mothers. So there are all these different versions here, but there's other things start to move away. Kids is mentioned. There's some sports floating around here, fans and United. Mummy and mama, you can scroll up through these pieces. Right, celebrate, grandma is mentioned down here, flowers. So these are all positive pieces. So these are helping this day appear happier by our measure. There are negative words that are being used less. So that's what this is saying. And this little sigma here tells you it's the sum of negative words that have dropped. Right, so there's a minus sign and down. So that means they've dropped. There's a plus sign and an up arrow. These are the positive words that are being used more. These are the negative words being used less. So that's nice that people aren't swearing as much on Mother's Day. There are some other pieces in here. Wars is being mentioned less, and so on. So again, you can scroll down and have a look at some of these pieces. And the main contributors are up the top. They're actually just fundamentally negative. So don'ts and no and not. They're just basic negative words. And then there's some swearing as well. All right. There are some words going the other way, and it will depend on the context of the year. So these words are being used less. They are good positive words. They're just being used less on this day, this Sunday, compared to the previous 7 days. So like and good and new and LOL. So these ha ha ha, very important Twitter word actually. These words are being used less. There are some negative words that are being used more. So last, didn't, without, drop, tornado. These are RIP is probably RIP. So these words are being used more for whatever reason around that particular time. You can go back to the view of all of the words being ordered by the magnitude of their change that they contribute. So these positive words being used more are the most significant ones, and then there are a few negative ones that are being used less that help. Everything on this side is making Mother's Day a more positive one. Everything on this side is making it kind of going against the grain. But you can see overall the trend is to have many more words on this side, and everything adds up to give you this gray bar. You can also reset it using this image here. So a couple of this link here. So a couple of pieces with these word shifts. You can now move to any place you want using the little calendar search here, and you can move to the next day, and it has a nice little way it jumps around. One other piece as well is when you are viewing this, this is important, when you're viewing our word shifts, you can copy this or click on one of the share buttons down here, and this view, this word shift popped up like this will be something you can send to someone else through email, or you can tweet it and so on. All right, so let's go to a negative event just by comparison. So the death of Robin Williams, recent, and it's a very sad event. So we lowercase everything, so that's why RIP, which would normally be capital RIP, all capital letters, is at the top. The sad and suicide, dead, depression. So these are terrible. These are all very bad words. Lost and missed are there as well. If you want to look at just the negative words, that will pop up. So there's mourning, condolences, demons is in there. On the other side, you will see words associated with Robin Williams. I mean, this was a very dominant story at the time. Thank and peace and laugh and laughter. Comedy is in there. Genius. These are all positive words being mentioned about him. Now, they help. They make this day have a little bit more positive feel, but the preponderance is towards a negative drop. So these are negative words being used more often, positive words being used more often. And then we have these slightly more complicated ones. So these are negative words that were being used less. So people were swearing a little less. If you look through here, there's simply the word without is being used less as well. Less no and less don't. And there are some positive words that were being used less, and that didn't help either. So there was less like and love and me and you and ha-ha and birthday. These all dropped, and that these two bars here are contributing to the relative to the decrease in happiness on the day that Robin Williams died, relative to the 7 days beforehand. Once again, you can reconstitute the whole view. If you want, you can look at just one of these and then move forward, for example. So this is the next day. People are still talking about it quite strongly. And in fact, this day blended into quite a number of days where our instrument showed a lot of negativity, and it was the protests in Ferguson, Missouri, over the death of Michael Brown. So you'll see why just using our word analysis can have some problems. So there's tear. It looks like tear. It was probably evaluated in that way, but it's part of tear gas. But then you get the texture, shooting and cruel and arrested and problems and cheat and so on. So there's enough negativity in here to capture that day. So that's it for our word shifts. They are certainly complex things to look at, but it really is the difference between speculating about what may have driven a sentiment score up or down, and really being able to understand it and decide if it's worthwhile or not. So we invite you to play around with these and share particular views with each other, and we hope this is very useful.